Let me be clear. Poverty exists because we allow it to exist. In the wealthiest country in the world, 140 million people are poor because we have allowed it to be so.
We have allowed it to be so. That was Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She's helping spearhead a new push to address poverty from the bottom up. On Thursday, she, a group of Democrats and leaders from the Poor People's Campaign, unveiled a sweeping resolution dubbed the, quote, third reconstruction. Among its many goals, guarantee living wages, redirect military and prison spending, expand voting rights, and reform the immigration system. Joining me now to talk all about this, Congresswoman Jayapal, a Democrat from Washington State. Also with me, Bishop William Barber. He's co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Welcome to you both, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this and for your efforts really to eradicate poverty in this country. Congressman, I want to start with you. Just formally introducing this resolution, it is wide-ranging. Give us really the overarching view of what you want to achieve and how quickly you want to achieve it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us both on. And this is an incredibly important movement to eradicate poverty. And it is wide-ranging, Yasmin, because the reality is that poverty is caused by an intersection of multiple factors. And you cannot just eradicate poverty by dealing with one piece. This is structural racism. It is all the ways in which our system has privileged and prioritized the most wealthy and refused to look at the issue of poverty. Just imagine that in the wealthiest country in the world, we have 140 million who are poor or low wealth. Even before the pandemic hit, 40% of Americans did not even have $400 in their bank account for the next emergency. And so this resolution says this is about all of the different factors, from the money that we spend on military spending that we should not spend, that could actually go into investing in housing, in education, and healthcare. All of those pieces, but also taking on structural racism, taking on voting rights, immigration reform. These are part and parcel of what creates poverty in America. And poverty is a choice. It is a choice. And we have to make different choices now. And we're so proud to be joining forces with the Poor People's Campaign, because this is a people's movement and we want it to be built from the bottom up.
Bishop Barber, if folks haven't caught on by now, I just want to be clear, this is not necessarily legislation, but you have called it, and I quote, the resolve necessary to implement real and transformational legislative action. In the long list, in this wide-ranging list of priorities, what do you think is most important, most urgent right now? We're not able to hear Bishop Barber. So, Congressman Jayapal, I want to go back to you as we get his audio fix there. Talk to me about what you believe is most urgent right now.
Well, it's all urgent. I really don't think we can separate these things out, because poverty is the result of choices we make across the board. What we do not spend on education, the fact that we have 32 million people that aren't even earning $15 an hour, the fact that we have 78 million people that have no health insurance or inadequate health insurance, even in the midst of a pandemic. So that's why it's so important. And I should just say that our Progressive Caucus members, I'm the chair of our 95-member strong Progressive Caucus in the House, we have numerous pieces of legislation that address many, if not all, of these pieces. But we are really putting it all together in a roadmap with moral clarity and commitment to say we will eradicate poverty and we will lift up the poor.
Reverend Barber, much of what you are looking to achieve here intersects with the president's current infrastructure bill. What do you think is most important in getting through here? And do you think some of these things can get through on a state-by-state level? For instance, if you're looking at minimum wage, right? The governor of Rhode Island signing today a bill that will increase the minimum wage by the year 2025 to reach $15 an hour. So it seems like some of these things can be achieved on a state-by-state level.
No, we need a full reconstruction in the country. Listen, billionaires and billionaires get everything immediately. When the pandemic hit, billionaires and corporations got over $1 trillion almost immediately. The poor have been told to wait time and time again. The $15 minimum wage was actually proposed by the March in Washington in 1963. This is an omnibus vision of a third Reconstruction that needs to be turned into omnibus policy. Last year, we had 2.4 million people show up for a mass Poor People's Assembly Moral March on Washington virtually. In 2022, we're going to be announcing in a few days a mass Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly Moral March on Washington to push this agenda, push this narrative. Listen to what we're saying. There are 5 interlocking injustices: systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, and the war economy. 140 million people, 43% of the nation in poverty, 52% of our children, 62 million who make less than $17 an hour, and people are making $7.25 an hour, and waitresses are making $2.13. We are far behind. We've got 400 people that make $97,000 an hour, while 32 million people don't even make 15. This is a right now agenda. And yes, we pushed for the infrastructure. That's one of the things that has to happen. But it must be infrastructure that hits from the bottom up. We had 8 million more people fall into poverty during the pandemic. The poor and low-wealth people were the people hurt the most and died the most during the pandemic. Billionaires made $2 trillion during the pandemic. This is a right now push, nothing less than the resolve for a third Reconstruction, ending and addressing poverty from the bottom up is what this nation must have. We had a first Reconstruction after the Civil War. We had a second Reconstruction in the Civil Rights Movement. We need a third Reconstruction. And this omnibus vision, we support the agenda, is the kind of call to resolve. We can't just talk about piecemeal, a little bit here and a little bit there, and let's wait 20 years. Last thing, 250,000 people are dying a year from poverty. 750 people a day. Think about that. We've been talking about what happens in the pandemic, but before the pandemic, 250,000 people were dying a day from poverty and low wealth. 750 a day. 750 people a day. We cannot have that kind of death happening and we not have an urgency about addressing what is what. Lastly, there's no scarcity of resources. There's no scarcity of solution. The scarcity is the moral will and the political imagination to do it. That's why we're pushing this in the resolution in the Congress, but we'll be mobilizing in the street. And it's black, it's white, it's Kentucky miners, it's Kansas farmers, it's white folk from Appalachia, black folk from Alabama, and even our Apache brothers and sisters from Arizona. This is a full-on push for this nation to do right by the poor.
Reverend Barber, you bring up so many good points there, life-saving points. Really, I do believe we need to continue this conversation, especially how you plan to get it done, how you plan to get it through, especially when you have so many Republicans that are resistant to spending right now. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, thank you. Reverend William Barber, thank you as well. Great conversation. I do want to continue it.